what I had written, a great deal of history could have evolved from the family. But I got no response whatsoever. No one, no one said anything whatsoever. You know, I find that, Jim, I am a great, I'm a prolific writer, as you know. Uh, Writing articles always for the Traffic Club. I've been doing that for 10 years, every month. I've got those, and someday I have to put those in sort of book order, because at this time there's over 100 of them, for posterity. And I'm always writing letters to the editor when things happen that I don't particularly care about. And I write letters quite frequently to old friends and rarely get a response. Well, that sort of thing used to bother me. I used to say, what in the world's the matter with people? Until I come to realize that not everybody has this desire to put things down in paper as old Pop-Up has. And I guess a lot of it happens because I'm so adept at the typewriter. I love to sit down, put a sheet of paper in the typewriter and go along. So that, you know, others don't have this, or others, they feel uncomfortable. As Ray Biedenbender, I wrote him very elaborately one time, 4 or 5 pages relating to happenings in our youth, and I got a letter from him about a month later. He said, it's not that your letter wasn't interesting. He said, I've read it 3 or 4 times. He said, but you intimidate me in trying to respond. Well, I don't think that was fair in himself to have said that, because he wrote, his letter was very, very clearly spelled out. Jackie McCarthy, who was La McCarthy's first cousin, I've corresponded with him for the last, I suppose, 8 or 10 years. And he always responds, so that when you get an individual like that, who was in New York, you relate to each other so well that you can correspond very successfully. Jackie, incidentally, he came, well, he joined the police force in New York as a simple cop patrolman, and he rose to deputy chief inspector. Now, that's a heck of an accomplishment. He came out of the same neighborhood. He was born and raised in 34th 10th Avenue. Another fellow I like to cite is someone who became extremely successful as a fellow I palled around with in 13, 14, 15 years of age. We had a team, the Knights. He was the catcher. We played baseball so many, many times. He is, even to this day, is not yet retired. So Tommy must be about 76. He's a member of the Supreme Court of the city of New York. Now, that's a heck of an accomplishment for someone to come out of this so-called Hell's Kitchen, which is an indication, to me at least, of the type of people that came from the families that did locate in that area. Bad name. Even today you hear people saying on television, oh boy, I was from 10th Avenue, as though it was a disgrace. Hell, I always defend the area by saying, look, you mean a disgrace? Look at the people that came out of there. In this growing up in Hell's Kitchen, I cite in the very last page, I think it's 50 families that were born or raised in this area, which perhaps embraced maybe 5 square blocks, not one of which produced a gangster. So the name of the area is just simply not true. Oh, there were this element, gangster element, people shooting each other. Hell, I knew 2 fellas very well that had bullet puts to the head. I knew a fellow who went to the electric chair in New York I used to box with. They were that type, but they didn't dominate the situation at all. So I suppose a lot has to do, well, the background, your family, your mother and your father. Family life at that time was altogether different than what exists today. Uh, People were very, very close, and you toed the line. You went to church. You ever got in trouble, you would get the hell beat out of you by your parents. But that society has been abandoned. I'm very, very fortunate in that my own children seem to have some semblance of what my mom and I grew up with. But what you read about today, but I suppose you shouldn't be too critical of the kids that are in this society with the drugs that exist today, temptations, the growth of ethnic people, and I don't mean that. I don't mean this. I'm not trying to become a anti-racist or rather anti-blacks. We put it that way because there are great, and I've known a great many of those people in my lifetime. Great many good ones. But in time, this will ultimately come about. I would think that with the growth of the Hispanics, there's more Puerto Ricans in New York City than there are in San Juan, Puerto Rico. Blacks beginning to dominate the situation. They're heavily involved. Of course, sports, they dominate sports entirely. They're physically better than the whites. Music, they dominate. So I think that element in time will be the leading element. Give it maybe another generation, another 25 years, if they will take care of their own. I think the tendency exists today where people of prominence in the black world, the musicians, the athletes and the like, I think they have the tendency, once they escape from the hardships of their youth, they seem to ignore the other children. But life goes on. How many more years they remain, I don't know. I'm prepared to go at any time. Mom and I live pretty good, I think. We say the rosary every day, and Mom is responsible for that. And the people we pray for, each name is mentioned, and it takes longer to mention the names than it does to say the rosary in itself. Oh, I'm not putting halos on ourselves, but I'm just simply saying that our background was such that these sort of attitudes prevail or evolve. And I see it in my own children, how you have come along to follow the sort of dictates of your parents, which is great, just great. And your children will come along as well. I see them starting to grow, another generation. Lord knows there'll be what I think I referred to it as the fifth generation in the family writings here. So time marches on. We had the family reunion, as you recall, here not too many years ago, about 4 years ago, and I think there were 100 and some of us together up there in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. And I think I make mention here, another couple of generations, you'd probably have to hire Madison Square Garden, New York, to accommodate the people in the family. So that's the way it grows. After all, we've all evolved from Adam and Eve, and they were only two, and here we are. The billions and billions who have gone before us and still exist today. So sitting here like this has been a joy, recollecting all of the things. I wish I had more recollection of my mother. Strangely, I think and think and think constantly of incidents, and I find some of them, but at 9 years of age, I would have expected that I would have had good memories embedded in this brain. But as much as I try to think back, I can't quite recollect. Well, as I mentioned before, having a remembrance of going up to Santa Claus and R.H. Macy, so that brings me back to 6, 7 years of age, I suppose. And I remember Mom, who was a seamstress, really. That was a trade. my mother.